I've told you all that as we get closer to the election, there are messaging advantages that the Biden campaign has. And that as those sort of rev up, as ads are being invested in, and these messages are being heard more widely and people are paying attention more because we're getting closer, that will help to hopefully sway people to either be motivated to vote and they would vote for Biden, or to sway from being unsure to voting for Biden, or maybe some people who are going to vote for Trump voting for Biden. And I have a good example of the type of messages that are really compelling that I think will make a difference, and the Biden campaign having the war chest necessary to invest in getting this message out. So the Business Insider reports on this, then I'll play this ad for you. Joe Biden doesn't want swing voters to forget that Donald Trump is now a convicted felon. The Biden campaign spending $50 million on a media blitz that includes a biting attack ad on Trump. The ad highlights Trump's conviction while painting Biden as fighting for your family. And so that's the context. Here is, if I can get the correct thing pulled up, this ad that the Biden campaign put together and is now running in key places.
In the courtroom, we see Donald Trump for who he is. He's been convicted of 34 felonies, found liable for sexual assault, and he committed financial fraud. Meanwhile, Joe Biden's been working, lowering healthcare costs and making big corporations pay their fair share. This election is between a convicted criminal who's only out for himself and a president who's fighting for your family.
I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this.
I'm going to really quickly pause your viewing of this video to request that you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. I think almost 70% of our audience, as we talked about before, is not subscribed to the channel. That's crazy town. If you could please click it, I would greatly appreciate it. Yeah, and that's a message that we want people to hear. And I think one of the ways that I've articulated it to people, the contrast, is just really focus on this. Really look at it. The message of the Trump campaign versus Biden. So much of what Trump says in speeches and in statements and on social media is about himself and his own victimhood. The MAGA movement is now defined by the victimhood of Trump. And that means so much time is being spent talking about how he needs to have his wrongs righted, how he needs to stop being victimized, how he's being targeted, and him, and not the issues that the American people are facing and the policy solutions that presumably he would put forward. And part of the reason why this has to be his message is he doesn't really have a coherent policy platform. And this has long been an issue with him. In 2020, the RNC had to put out essentially a platform that said we support what Trump supports, but not the normal detail-oriented platform that a party would break down for the American public, because the MAGA contingent of the GOP isn't really about policy. It's about this one man and his victimhood. And so obviously, if you truly believe he's being targeted, maybe that's a motivator for you. My hope, though, is that ads like this can, by listing all of his different issues, make you go, wait, is he actually using this presidential campaign to convince a chunk of the country that he's a victim when he's actually just being held legally accountable for his actions? And if that's true, do I really want to support the person who finds it necessary to center his message around himself and how he should get retribution and how he should get out of legal trouble, whereas Biden's actually focuses on both his policy record, what has he been doing to try to make people's lives better, and then what's ahead and what could happen? And this gets to a really foundational issue with our current moment in American politics, which is that because of the presence of essentially MAGA, but also the broader celebritization of politicians and the everything being about the 5-second sound bites and social media and all of that, the salaciousness being necessary for everything to keep people's eyes on, it also just has unraveled more broadly our willingness and ability to have level-headed policy conversations. And we just recently, in a segment, walked through sort of the 2008 election, the 2012 election, the 2016 election, and you see this transformation of the Republican Party. The Democratic Party has changed in ways, but it is similar in the fundamental ways, right? But it's been the Republican Party that has transformed in huge ways and changed in fundamental ways. And in that story, we're talking about how this has impacted the approach to election results. But in a really broad sense, it's just abandoned policy. So instead of we oppose each other on policy, we get in there, we debate, and then we can understand and respect each other mutually, even if we're on other sides of that debate. Now it's become so much more of a crisis and existential. And MAGA has turned the GOP into something other than a serious governing party that has a common dedication to our democratic process. And that hurts us in so many ways, because now the campaign is about so much other than level-headed policy conversations. And the idea of this sort of democratic process is supposed to be that either candidates try their best to win over the American public by proposing the best policy solutions to problems in their lives, and then we watch their governance and see how effectively they were able to improve Americans' lives, and then we decide if we want to keep them in or not. But it's just abstracted from that in a major way in the Republican Party mostly, and that takes away Trump being the center of attention with his victimhood, as he says it. That takes away from those policy conversations we should be having. But Biden's saying, that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about you, not myself as much. Now, the New York Times reported on this, as you can see on a screen here, this ad that I just played for you, saying Biden campaign ad paints Trump as a felon. What does that mean? I said on X, they're not painting him as a felon. Donald Trump is a felon. And we keep hearing this from MAGA people, and now apparently the New York Times. What the heck is this? NYT? We've heard MAGA people say that Democrats want to say that Trump's a convicted felon. That was me imitating Marjorie. No. Democrats are just describing what it is that Trump now is, given where his legal case led or where it concluded. And that is something that is not even, it shouldn't even be politicized. Sure, Biden is, for political reasons, making sure people understand you have convicted felon, you have more common sense governance, right? But the fact that the media is giving Trump assists with headlines like this, Biden campaign ad paints Trump as a felon, instead of describes him or any other term that doesn't have that sort of connotation, I don't get it. Now, there was this event with Barack Obama, Jimmy Kimmel, and Joe Biden, and a bunch of other celebrities. And I just want to play this clip for you of Jack Black that was so awesome.
A few days ago, my manager called me and said George Clooney and Julia Roberts wanted me to help out the president and speak here tonight. And I said, I am in. When and where? And thank you. And then they said, Jack, we know how busy you are. You don't have time. Look at all the other events that are happening tonight that you already turned down. MC at the Fliegelman Bat Mitzvah. The opening of the new Jack in the Box in Oxnard. Judge at the second annual Imperial Valley Avocado Festival. You don't see that on Meryl Streep's resume. I said, I know I turned them down, but my president needs me. Thank you. And then they hit me with the big one. They said, Jack, you can't go. You have nothing to wear. Your good suit is in the cleaners. Well, were they wrong? Because I had this to wear. My kick-ass American flag overalls. Most patriotic outfit of all times. And that shut them up. There wasn't much they could say after that. And when the president wins in November... I'm pretty sure I'm going to get a sweet shout out in his victory speech for what I gave up to be here. Because when democracy is at stake, Jack Black answers the call. Mr. President, you're welcome. That's not the president. That's not Judge. It's a random dude. But I thought it would look better if I talked right to a guy.
Funny, but, saying clearly, when democracy's on the line, he shows up in the overalls. So that's a fun way to end it. And let me know what you thought of all that in the comments. If you want to get the daily extra episode of the show, you can do so by clicking that join button below.